we're exceeding that and needing to use the stacked parking, the folks who need to get out can't because they're all being blocked? So how would that actually operate?
I'm sorry. As indicated in discussion, the plan would be to make sure that the employees are all stacked in the rear of the property. So you have the maximum 10 vehicles there for the employees, and then the remainder of the site would be for the people coming in and out, for the food pantry and clothing.
So where would the first overflow person, the customer or the client, who pulls in and there aren't enough parking spaces, where do they park?
Well, what I would imagine is they would just have to stay stationary in the drive, if that situation occurred. Stay stationary in the drive aisle till a space becomes available. Again, remember that this is a revolving situation, so as indicated in previous testimony, it'd be about 5 minutes, picking up either the food or the clothing.
Mr. Malinkovsky, we're going to take a break in 2 minutes for 10 minutes, okay? Bathroom break, whatever you want to call it, but just I want you to be aware of it,
Oh, okay.
all right?
Were there any other questions?
Oh, here, Kathy. So I have a question. So in the letter of no interest to the state, their highway,
Yes.
were these stacking issues, were these 10, 20 at a time? The question that Mr. Taylor just asked, it has intrigued me that the state has no interest in there. And the reason I ask that, I'm going through somewhere else here in Hainesport with a parking issue along a major road, stacking problems. I have people in violation, just to let you know. The issue that I have is that, so is the state aware of what we are discussing here today because of stacking issues, pulling in, pulling out, parking along that highway? Are they aware of this scenario that we're talking about this evening?
Probably not specifically. What we do is we do send them a site plan. Of course, that we don't show any kind of stacking on the site. What the DOT, of course, they would be concerned if cars back up on their highway. But mostly what they'd be concerned about is whether you're proposing any improvements within their right-of-way, and also the number of parking spaces. For example, I believe they'll see an increase in traffic if you have, I believe the threshold is 50 parking spaces, but I'm not 100% sure on that, where they would have a more of an interest in the project. And then they're also interested in how you're maintaining the current entrances onto the property.
So then if this application were to be approved, are you going back to DOT with what we're requesting, what will be an agreement, and proposing to the state, to the NJDOT?
No, we will not. We will be going, however, we will be going back to the NJDOT because this site is currently on septic system.
Correct.
And that cannot handle what's being proposed.
I'm well aware of that.
So we are proposing a pump station at the rear of the site.
Can we ask you to please be quiet?
It'll be a small private lift station. They'll take the sewer flow and it'll go out to the state highway, and in doing so, we'll need to permit that with NJDOT. But there is a sanitary manhole that actually is an extension of the sanitary sewer system that is through the Glens at Masons Creek residential
Right, I've already
development.
talked to MUA, I'm well aware of
Yeah,
that.
so they have a manhole out here, and we'll be tying our force main into that manhole. We will, should the board grant approval, we'll be making application to Mount Holly MUA and also NJDOT for
Okay,
for
thank
that
you very
purpose.
much.
All right, we're going to take a break now. 10-minute break, okay?
When we come
What's that?
back, if it's okay with you, the operator, the project owner, the applicant would like to speak to this potential stacking issue.
You have plenty of time. We don't. Counselor?
I don't know. They said no to new business at 10:30.
Only once.
This old
That's how we love them.
Stay until 2 o'clock in the morning. We always, you really, when I finished it,
I want to like this application. I like the parts of it. It's good. Yeah. The plans didn't talk about 3 full-time staff members.
grab it.
And if she said she's getting 10 to 15 cars at a time now,
So,
and only 40%.
I can make a stink, I just can't vote.
all right,
One of the criteria to grant a use variance is it has to provide benefit to the community, correct?
Well, this is an inherently beneficial use, so the positive kind, as determined by the legislature, places of worship, food shelters, hospitals, and schools.
That precedent set.
Right, so what they have to address is the negative criteria. How do they handle the problems associated with the use? Like parking, like noise, like deliveries, like stacked.
Online, you know you're gonna have. And these existing conditions, these were granted, that place was built, what, 40 years ago? When we had a 2-lane highway here, some of these conditions just don't, they're not even conducive to today.
That's for the used car guy.
Oh, shit. Where's the one from me? That's another case. I just got this tonight, as you know.
So we didn't do a chart on this one, but we talked about the existing non-conditions, the new variance. Parking to me is the biggest issue. Our ordinance says you're technically supposed to calculate all of the uses at one time, which might be 80. And if you want relief, then give us testimony and say, well, we're only going to schedule them at these different times. But we ask them to calculate the full
I don't
work.
even want.
right is, I don't think there's enough accurate information on usage, growth, traffic, and parking in particular. I think they need to give us more. I'm not, there's no safety out here, there's no side street where if there's 5 extra cars, people can pull around the corner and stop for a few minutes. It is a state highway. So this needs to be buttoned up.
Free cheese, you know what's gonna happen.
Nice to be back.
It's just bringing, I can't believe it. This town's really changed in the last 5 years, you know? I'm sure you, we do with Tom, steering the thing.
I just want to make sure that they get you guys all enough information.
Yeah, but the way I always looked at it, you didn't like it, I didn't like it.
I don't love it. I can say that, you know, and it's very base. This is a use that do we need it here? That's a different situation.
I don't need to stop you.
So the question is,
She's got potential. You know their line is 14, and she's probably more than 14. Then you got 4 living rooms. You got 22, 23 people going to be living
Yeah, I don't think we knew about living here.
no. That's why when they started that testimony, I was like, whoa, you said that west building is just staff, but there's bedrooms shown.
There's going to be 2. There's going to be a couple in there. So there's 2 in each unit. And then there's 2 more in the house. So there's 4 to 6 living in that house. And when there's 2 people, there's kids. Right. There's a man and a woman, there's kids too. So you could have 30 people living over there in a blink of an eye. Right?
I think we know where these
Yeah. And sometimes
Gotta ask her about
I got that. No, ask her about
I'm gonna be here next month. I didn't know
So the code
Can everybody please retake your seats? What's that? I always said that in school, take the seat. You know? Some questions were posed during the break, which I want to try to clarify something, please. If you could all give me some time. There's a little bit of confusion with the audience, I'm not being disrespectful, in terms of understanding what we mean by no new business after 10:35. Okay, this case has already started. We will not take another case, new business after 10:35, but we'll take this case till we finish it. All right, now, I can't tell you how long it's going to take. There have been times we've been around since 2 o'clock in the morning. There are also times where we just adjourn it to the next meeting, and that way everybody is going to have an opportunity to speak and be heard, because we want to hear what you people have to say about this application. Right now, it's the applicant's turn, and the board members are questioning them and are professionals, and we're trying to elicit as much information so that we will be in a position to make some kind of a decision at some point in time. But we don't make that decision till we get comments from the public. And we do take comments from the public seriously, and we take them into consideration in our decision. So don't feel slighted or anybody. We're going to get to hear from everybody. If we have to postpone or continue rather at the next meeting, February 1st, whatever it's going to take, okay? So I hope that'll make everybody feel a little bit better. We just don't get to a point and say, okay, 10:30, you're finished talking, we can't hear from the public, and we make a decision. We don't do that. Yes, Mrs. Harris.
Thank you, Everybody hear me? Yes. Okay, good. I just wanted to address that if I could. In talking with the applicant's team, I think what we would like to do is, we've got probably some more questions for the project engineer, Mr. Malinowski, and then once the board is finished hearing from Mr. Malinowski, at least for right now, then we'd like to move on to our architect. Once our architect wraps up, and the board has asked, and the board's consultants have asked their questions of the architect, we'd kind of like to evaluate where we're at that point. We might ask at that point for a continuance or an adjournment to the February 1st date, assuming that you have additional time. And then we'll come back and put our planner's testimony on the record, continue our presentation, in other words. And then, of course, we always, the public is a given, questions from the public. As you point out, that's part of the process. There's no, we certainly, and we would bring everyone back so that, so that every witness, all witnesses were available to the board, its consultants, and the public once again. We just we want to make sure that we're keeping everybody, including us, candidly, fresh enough to be able to do our best job here.
Okay.
Ms. Edwards, I assume you're planning on one of your expert witnesses talking about the use variance criteria.
Absolutely. What Mr. McKay asked was whether or not we've brought a planning consultant with us to speak to the justification for the use variances and other variance relief that we're seeking, and the answer is yes. Mr. Remsa, sitting to my immediate left, is our planning consultant, and he'll be providing all that testimony. He's our last witness, in response to your question, yes, we do have that testimony. We're prepared to provide that. So that's my thought. That's our thought on, where we go with the hearing tonight. Because again, we want to make sure everyone stays fresh enough to do their best job here and, to answer all questions. And we certainly, whether it's tonight or February 1st or whenever the board can next accommodate us, we're going to be ready to answer all questions. We want to hear from the public, too. We want to hear from our neighbors.
Okay, thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you. Additional thing, if I could, before we took the break, we were talking about parking and the concept of stacking. Mr. Malinowski was testifying. We'd like to I'd like to ask if we could have the applicant, Ms. Trappier, speak to that. She has firsthand knowledge from, obviously the operation they have underway in Mount Holly. She'll have a sense for how quickly we're going to move cars, where we're going to put the employees, where we're going to put our employees to park during those times when we've got people coming in to get food and clothing. So if-
Okay, and I want to just clarify stacking. That doesn't mean two cars, one on top of the other.
Right.
It means behind, okay? Just, but you can explain, because there are applications that involve stacking.
You're right.
This kind, so we just clarify that. And for those of you in the audience that were upset when Mrs. Edwards said that, we could come back February 1st, I'm not trying to speak for you, but you're taking us all into consideration. It's not a penalty box thing, because if we stay here till 2 o'clock in the morning, do you think you'll be wide awake then? So we want to do the right thing, and everybody will be heard. I don't want anybody out there thinking that at some point in time, we're just going to do a rush to judgment, and we're not going to take public comments into consideration. Because if things go through, you all are going to be neighbors. You're going to have to live with each other and get over it. But we don't want to impose anything on anybody, and we want to do the right thing. We all have questions about parking, traffic, a whole bunch of things, and you'll get a chance to air your comments and help you, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. May I call Ms. Trappier to speak to that?
It's
parking issue? Thank you.
your presentation.
When he was talking in regards to stacking, we're not talking about cars on cars. In the back of the parking lot, it's where the staff would be. So it'd be a car here and a car here. It'd be a car here and a car here for the staff to be in the back of the parking lot. Now, when individuals come in to receive food, they would come in and back into the spots that are for those receiving food. So they would back in. We would have what they call Gaylord's pallets. And we would have square pallets where we would have our dry goods, our meats, our pastries, our dairy already prepared. So when a car pulls in, we go give them their food, they leave. The next car, we give them their food, they leave. So when they're leaving, someone else is coming in to take their spot. So there's never going to be a time where people are in the driveways or on the roadway easement. So
So folks don't have to come inside,
no,
so it's a curbside?
yes. And it'll be a continuous flow, so they never even have to turn their cars off.
But if I may ask you one, you don't have to address it now, just get to it sometime. You mentioned about on Mill Street that you have walk-in traffic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, where are they going to walk in from? For
They
this
come
new-
they come from their homes.
No,
They-
but from this, people are going to walk in on Route 38?
No. Those that cannot get here due to transportation constraints. We prepare our foods all week, and on Thursday, we will load up the truck. We have the list of the names of those families that do not have transportation to make it to Hainesport. We will drive back to Mount Holly on Thursday, and we will deliver their food to them. We have their names, so they will be there waiting on us, and we'll be able to provide them their food, and then they can go home.
Where will they be waiting for you?
There's public parking in the back of our property.
In Mount Holly?
In Mount Holly, yes,
Okay.
for those residents in Mount Holly
All right.
that can't get there. Anybody outside of Mount Holly, they have transportation to get to our location.
So you are closing 41 Mill, correct?
Yes.
So, if I may, I'm just looking at your parking plan, and I just really don't understand it. You're saying that you're gonna stack, but I don't see any spots delineated on the plan to show anything larger than a, what's it, 25-foot by 9-foot space. Then so I'd like to see, or hope the board does see, I don't know what position other than answer the question. Then I'm looking at, how is the plan, if people are gonna drive in and not get out of their cars, where is that area delineated, that self-serve or drive-through area, like a, traditional drive-through business? It looks like, you're only gonna get 2 cars here, and you're gonna be out on 38.
No, we have all of those, I don't know if everyone can see this diagram, but they would back into, as you can see on this diagram here, they will be able to back into all of those spaces to the right. They would back in. The parking spot.
Testimony is that these spaces are gonna be empty. I'm gonna drive in, I'm gonna find the space, I have to get out of my car, and somebody's gonna run whatever you're providing out to the car?
Yes.
And they're gonna leave.
Yes. That's how we do it where we're at now.
With regards to, if I bring my car in that eastern driveway, the entrance, if you will, and I start to go to the back, where am I going to turn around to back in to something? You know what I'm saying? Or, I don't know, maybe, somebody answer the question. I don't know.
So this is, whether you're backing in or pulling in forward, it doesn't matter, it's a typical parking lot, just like any other parking lot that you would pull into. You do have your drive aisle, and that's where you're going to make your maneuver to pull into the parking space, so.
See, usually when we consider applications, we request a traffic evaluation, but that usually involves the traffic going in and out of the property. I'm asking my question, and I know some of the other people, and I think Mr. McLaughlin has the question. What are you going to tell us about the traffic pattern in this?
So the traffic pattern is, of course, as indicated, we have the easterly entrance is one way in, and then the westerly driveway is an exit.
Okay.
Way out, okay? So the parking area in the front is a one-way direction. However, the parking along the side, the easterly side, is two-way. So that's wide enough, the drive aisle is wide enough to accommodate that, although we are asking for a waiver because it's a foot narrower than what your ordinance requirements, but it's still within engineering standards, general engineering standards. And again, usually the drive aisle width is there to accommodate if you have opposing parking spaces in the back, so you have enough maneuvering so you don't hit the car behind you.
Okay, but, excuse me, so it's just a simple question. I've just pulled into that eastern driveway,
Yes,
and I want to go pick up my food,
yes.
and you keep saying I have to back in. Where do I turn around and back in?
Well, you would just pull up into the thing and then just back in, just like you normally would. And if you pulled in here into the parking lot here and you wanted to back in, you can also pull in forward, I'm not sure.
But you
Might even
said
be
we were
better.
going to go to the back of the parking lot where the cars are stacked, bumper to bumper and side by
That would
side.
just be the staff, because their cars would be there till we close up business for the day. So the last two in the back is where we would have the cars, the staff parking at. Everyone else would either pull in or they would back in. We would give them their food. We have staff out there that would control the traffic flow of the cars. So we would give them their food. They could either back out and leave, or they can pull out and leave.
Okay.
So just to sort of give a little more insight into this, the purpose of taking the staff parking and putting it in the back and concentrating in the back and stacking in the back is to alleviate all the parking in the front and also most of the parking along the easterly side.
I get it.
To accommodate those 15 to 20 people that'll be coming in and then leaving, and then, you know, as was testified earlier, is that it's a constant flow.
Well, when you agree
Okay.
that you should show the stacking on the plan, do you think you should do that?
We can do that, yes.
We can, and one
Just for the board to understand what you're speaking about.
One of the things that we would do if we're talking about coming back at the February 1st meeting or a subsequent meeting, depending on availability, you know, what the board tells us they have in terms of availability, is to allow us to,
It's me. See, it's me.
is it you?
Personality.
There you go. There you go. Coming back to a subsequent meeting to continue the hearing allows us to fine-tune the parking plan, to answer some of these questions, you know, on paper. Make it clearer what we intend in terms of traffic pattern, traffic flow.
Okay.
Can I ask you, do I understand you to say that you're going to have a parking attendant out there directing traffic?
Yes, I would have my staff out there, as we do at the current location.
Mr. Malinowski, where is, again, in all fairness, the fire official has not completely reviewed this yet. Where on the plan is the fire lane proposed here at this point? Do you have any idea?
Well, we do have open curb area, of course, along the westerly side of that easterly parking lot, and then also clear area in the front.
Will that be striped?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So
And
it makes
signed.
sense, honestly, too, is that since he has not fully reviewed this, we don't know what he's going to require, any turning radiuses, things such as that as well.
Yeah, we did do, as part of our submission, we do have, we do have a circulation plan that shows the refuse truck coming in.
Okay.
And making its maneuvers. And then we also have the fire apparatus. Now, we just show the fire apparatus coming in, into the loop in the front and exiting out the front. If they can come in, of course, they'd have to be backing out in order to exit the site if they need to come along the easterly side of the building. But we do show that the apparatus can make that maneuver.
Okay.
Because this is where all the turning is going to be.
All right, thank you.
Just out of curiosity, you mentioned fire trucks. Where's the closest fire hydrant, do you know?
There actually is a fire hydrant on the adjoining property, the Legacy property. It's just to the rear. It's probably about 20 feet from the rear property line.
Okay.
Actually, I saw that today while I was out at Legacy. So, exactly like this, literally on the property line.
Yeah, so if they need to pull up an apparatus back here to tie into that, and the pumper, typically they want to tie a pumper into that and to fight fires, you know, they can do that. It's just backing out, they'll just have to back straight out in this particular situation.
So, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If they're Do you anticipate all of those parking stalls to be filled in a delivery truck? Because I know the food bank has a pretty large truck for their food. I know that Farmers Against Hunger is generally just a volunteer with an open back truck. But how is the delivery truck going to stage if there's going to be cars parked there?
Well, can I
Yeah,
answer?
my understanding is that the deliveries are done on Thursday, so
Yes.
there won't be any, there'll be, of course, your just parking for the staff at the time.
And we don't receive deliveries from the food bank of South Jersey. We go and pick it up using the truck, the smaller truck that I have.
And then you stage it on site?
Yes.
On the pallets?
Yes.
Okay.
Are there perishables in that? Is it just dry goods?
It's perishables and dry goods. I have 24 freezers.
If that goes rotten, where does that get disposed?
I have, well, currently, because we're in a residential area, we have about 18 trash bins that we put out front for the trash. But in the new property, we would get we'll already have a recycling bin and we'll have a trash bin.
Yeah, we do have a dumpster enclosure at the rear of the property.
Is that collected once a
Once a week. Once a week.
That's going to sit somewhere for 6 days hypothetically?
Yes.
If that doesn't oppose, if the health department doesn't get involved in that, or, I don't know.
It's up to them.
Right. Okay.
They come out, health department comes out every year, and they've never had an issue with us.
Pastor, you mentioned that you have a truck that's used. How large of a truck is that?
It's a 17-footer,
Okay, so like a pickup or a van, like a
a U-Haul.
U-Haul? Is it an actual rented U-Haul? or
No,
is
I
it-
own it.
Okay. So kind of like a small box truck?
Yes.
van Sort of thing. Are there any other vehicles associated with the business?
Just a company car, that's it.
All right. Are they part of the staff member parking, or how is that handled?
Yes. No, the truck would be backed up, parked next to the storage.
Right, yeah, the storage facility.
Yes.
Okay.
In front of the storage facility.
And will that truck be stored here overnight?
Yes.
It'll pretty much be here all the time unless it's making
Making runs, yes.
a food, I guess, pickup or delivery?
Yes.
Okay. And then no other trucks, nothing else?
No.
From that? No buses for
No.
transport or anything?
No.
Excuse me. Good question, but I don't understand the conflict. You said before, people get bus passes to,
Yes, they can the county gives out bus passes, yes.
so that'll be buses on Route 38,
Yes,
not coming to the property.
all right.
Okay, sorry, I just wanted to...
No, but then I think she also said that on Thursday evening, some folks who don't have ability to get there, they will make
Yeah, that's...
on-site deliveries. Because I do think, as we try to unravel the onion a little bit, we touch on it in our report. Technically, the way the Hainesport ordinance is written, each one of the uses, even though they may not be used at the same time, technically, our parking requirements are calculated by everything that could potentially operate at the same time. So I think it's going to be important for us to have the truck incorporated as part of that, to address what that absolute maximum would be, and then as part of the variance justification to say, we will only do, food pantries and how that staggering is, and then what that maximum demand is. Because I think, and I know where the chairman is going, a lot of times we do get a traffic study, and while it is a state highway, and I think we're less concerned, I don't want to speak for the board, less concerned about people getting into and off of the site because it is a state highway, but how many folks is it going to be? Because if you have 10 employees and a truck on site, and then you have 10 to 15 cars at a time now, if there's any growth factor at all, there's no safety valve, and cars are either backed up or trying to park on the state highway. So I think some, I don't want to call it a study, but some parking analysis, some shared parking analysis, it would be helpful for us to be able to accurately identify the full extent of what the parking requirement would be, and to be able to identify your relief. So I think to some degree, I don't think we need traffic counts per se, but I'll defer to the board and Marty. A clearer picture of what's happening with the parking is important, because that truly is a public safety issue, because we don't have a side street, there's no safety valve for this site, and I know you don't want to have folks hurt.
Right.
Comment.
Well, see, I have 10, we call them staff, some of them are volunteers, the majority of them are volunteers. They're not there every day. I may have 5 that are there throughout the entire week, and then I may have the other 5 that'll show up on a Monday, they may show up on a Wednesday.
And that's all going to be hugely helpful information that we actually just don't have now. So it's hard for us to really try to evaluate this. So I think that would be incredibly valuable. I think the second part was the 3 staff bedroom units were not part of that. So I think a little bit of clarification of how many, is it limited to it? If you can only have adults in the code blue, is this adults only? Is it 1 person per room? Could it be a small family per room? How do you handle that? And I don't know that we need all of them this evening, but how is your staff bedroom? Is that rented?
For the staff, it's a part of their salary, it's like room and board, they get that as part of their salary to stay there on the house, on the property. We do not do families inside the house because it's a working house. It's for staff only. We do not do families. We do not allow families to stay overnight on the property at all. Under Code Blue, my contract only allows me to have single adults, men and women 18 and over. And that would be in the bottom section of the warehouse in the back.
Right. So I think some clarification on that may be helpful as well, at least from our standpoint. And I don't know how the board feels on the parking and some of those kind of use.
I'll give you a hint. I agree with you.
Yep. We'll get you the analysis you're asking for.
I have
We'll
two
provide.
questions for you. One is, do you know if there's a bus stop?
Yes.
Here, where's your bus stop?
Where, and for the Hainesport property,
Close to where you're going,
right in front of Wawa,
right in front of what?
the Wawa on 38.
On the corner.
It's right there on the corner, yes.
Okay, so that's roughly 500-600 feet away.
Yes.
Okay, and the next question is, do you have a facility nearby that operates in this same kind of environment? What I'm asking is that I can go to that facility and see how this parking thing works, or how the distribution of the foods and things happen at any one time.
I know there's Second Baptist Church in Mount Holly. As far as Code Blue, there's a Code Blue shelter site in Burlington Township. There's another one, Christian Caring Center in Browns Mills, New Jersey, who has a food pantry and a Code Blue shelter site as well.
In terms of our site, a site that we own, we have that site in Mount Holly on Mill Street that Reverend has referred to.
Okay, so then I can make arrangements with you.
Oh, yes,
To come see our operation, absolutely,
yes.
absolutely, be happy to have you.
You know, I have a question regarding that. Your site is, what's your speed limit there on Mill Street? Probably 35, maybe 30?
Probably about 20, 25, yeah.
You got 38, and when I'm doing 50 miles an hour, I'm 20 miles an hour slow. People
Yeah.
are flying down and trying to get out people are, I gotta sit, even when I'm just at a side street, I gotta wait for a while. You're talking about pick up, get your stuff and go. I've never seen 38, maybe on a, you know, on a holiday or whatever, where there's not that many cars, but man, there are days that you gotta sit there a while, and all of a sudden stuff's gonna start backing up. But the speed limit scares me, because you got that third lane, and how many cars get in that far third lane, and they're trying to get ahead of everybody else, and it's right, they come out almost right where your place is. So there's concerns with that speed limit and everything else that's going on.
That issue will be part of the traffic analysis that we're going to provide to you. We're going to look at that issue also, and be prepared when we come back to provide you with more information to address, to answer your questions.
You also have to take into consideration that some people get over in that third lane if they want to go into the Glen, or if they want to go into the facility there, the medical facility, the kidney medical facility. So, that is also a possibility.
We'll take that into account. We'll make sure that the person who does the analysis for us takes that into account.
So can I ask another question in regards to segueing from Mr. Miller's? Is that if
There is a short XL.
the bus stop is 500 feet, let's just say, give or take, whatever the case may be, away from the facility, and they are walking from point A, meaning the bus stop, to your facility, and then would have to go back possibly to, get the bus for some reason or whatever may. At what point then, as the town and yourself, are we providing accessibility to your facility safely, meaning a sidewalk? Are they going to be cutting across Legacy, the Wawa parking lot? There is, used to be Larchmont building. At that point, if we're taking anyone who would need to use those facilities to acquire anything from your business, and then even to go back, how are we providing them safety? And the reason I say this is that we've had things on Warren Highway recently where the developer has had to provide access sidewalks because there were none. So I think that's something that possibly that needs to be addressed, is that how are we getting them safely from the bus to your facility?
I have a question, and it's out of ignorance, but when I see code blue, I'm a New Yorker, code blue, the police are going around, you almost see it forcibly taking people. How do you get your code blue people to your facility? Are the Mount Holly police or other police bringing them to your facility? And then the second question is, how do they leave? If the police had to bring them there, if that's the answer. How do they leave? Would they go back to the bus stop, or, with some of your vouchers, or your Uber set up?
Well, during Cold Blue, if we get contacted by 211, which is the Cold Blue emergency line, and they said, do we have space for someone to come, but they don't have transportation, I will send an Uber to pick them up. We do work with New Jersey State Troopers. They will bring people to us, the Pemberton Police Department, Mount Holly Police Department, Willingboro Police Department, Burlington, Mount Laurel, yes, Medford, yes. We've even had them come as far as Atlantic City or Camden, when they didn't have space for them down there. So they would bring them up here.
And I don't know your business, so please just bear with me. So what do you feel the percentage is of people that are, I wouldn't call it forced, but maybe picked up versus voluntarily coming in a scenario like?
Those that you would consider forced, may be about 1-2%.
That may be a bad word.
1-2%.
A lot of them don't want to.
1-2%, yeah.
Contained, I guess,
Yeah, that would be 1-2%, but a lot of times when the police would bring them, we tried to evaluate them, because there's times when they brought people that didn't need to be in our facility, and we would tell them you'd have to take them to SCIP or to the emergency room so that they can be evaluated.
And then, how would they leave?
The police would take them back.
So you
They would take them to the, before they leave, the police, we don't allow the police to leave, we would talk to the person, find out what their situation is, and then the police would then take them from our facility to one of the
Now,
hospitals.
if your temperature, and, you know, glad I didn't move to Florida, because the temperature's getting better here all the time, and that's another whole subject, but anyway, say it stays cold for like 2 weeks, what happens? Are these people, are they there for 2 weeks?
We've done what we just had with the last storm that we just had. We were asked to keep them during the day. So I have, from my regular staff, I have a code blue staff. So I have 8 individuals. So I have those that work at night, and then another staff would come in the morning to be there with them during the day. We would have like the code blue at night and then the warming center during the day. So they would be there for the duration of that storm.
So again, the plan looks like, I think there was some questions from the board that it showed 8 beds, but you're saying
It's
14.
14 beds.
But the plan, does it show?
I think they were looking at like bunk beds. They were looking at, they were thinking bunk beds, yes, but it's actually 14 Army cots.
Your testimony is that 14,
We have 7 men cots and 7 women cots, yes.
interesting.
You ought to come see it sometimes.
I don't know if I want to.
They're just like you and me, they just fell below life, that's all.
I mean, I'm getting an education, it's quite something.
And I think, can I just say this, that I think when people think of the code blue, that they're thinking of drug addicts and prostitutes and alcoholics. That's not always the case.
And I don't mean that I don't want to come see it for any other reason.
Right.
It sounds kind of sad.
Mr. Chairman?
It is.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I didn't mean to interrupt your question and answer, but the audience did by virtue of this constant din, the talking
Yeah,
out
we're trying to
there.
record the hearing, and very important, this is an important hearing, and if there's a background that's shot, there's no, that the applicant nor the municipality can hear what the testimony is. And this is, you know, very important here, and if it wasn't important, you all wouldn't be here, so we just need to make sure it's recorded.
Yeah, and I thank everybody for being here.
Yeah, well, no, and I mean, like, and I made comments and see it, I may look it up, and it's interesting, very
Yeah.
interesting what you're doing.
Thank you.
So when
Somebody's
they,
got to do it.
Hey,
when they stay over for Code Blue, you said it was 7 to 7?
Yes, 7 at night to 7 in the morning.
And what happens at 7 a.m.?
They are allowed to leave, and they either get an Uber, or they'll get a ride share, or if they just want to leave on their own without transportation from us, we don't hold them there. They usually go to the library in West Hampton, which is a warming
Okay.
center.
As a full disclosure, I have had experience with this, because at one time our church did that.
Yes.
And it was actually church members that drove them wherever they wanted to go, but it was a 7 o'clock. We also provided a dinner and we provided a breakfast. Are there any meals that are provided during this time?
Yes, we provide home-cooked meals, hot meals at night, and we pick up donations from Wawa, so we heat up the Wawa sandwiches. We have 6 coffee pots where they can get coffee, hot chocolate, tea. We give them water, we give them juice, we give them soda. We give them everything that you and I would have at home. That's at my shelter.
Well, that's basically what it is.
Yes, because I've been homeless, so I know
Right.
what that feels like. That's why I do what I do.
Just as a follow-up to that, Pastor, so during Code Blue, you have 7 separate, are the 3 staff members that live there, are they also part of Code Blue?
No, I have additional 8 paid staff for Code Blue.
Okay, so it's 3 on-site, an additional 7, was it 7?
Additional 8 for Code Blue.
Okay, so 8 for Code Blue, and then the food bank had, how many, the food pantry?
Another 7.
7, okay. Because I think as you go through that parking analysis, you need to make sure if a Code Blue does happen on a Wednesday night, what is your contingency plan when you have prayer group there? Because you're already sort of maxed out, that 7 may put you over. Or if for some reason you have a code blue where it continues into Friday during the day, you're now at 18 folks, just staff members on site.
Well, Code Blue only allows 2 people at a time, so only 2 staff per set for Code Blue. So it's not all 8 people are there at the same time. So it's 2 people that works overnight. If they ask us to stay open during the day, then those 2 would leave, another 2 would come during the day, or they can...
So it's not 8 at one time?
No, it's never 8 at one
Okay,
time, no.
So being able to clarify that,
Yes.
because I heard that as 8 folks taking care of the 14 who were there.
Yes, no.
That has parking implications. So whenever that, again, if we have that daytime, like the temperature we had a week ago.
Right.
We've got single digits. If that happens on a Friday, when we know that food pantry is happening, what is the parking implication? Obviously, if it's only 2 additional staff members, that's
Yes.
much less impactful than 8. But I think kind of all of those issues really need to be spelled out and quantified. So A, the relief that's requested is accurate from your team, and the board can evaluate it
Okay,
accurately.
We'll make sure to.
And so we don't have an issue.
okay.
Hey, you want Mr. Malinkowski to, if you wouldn't mind, can you pick up on something that was just talked about here? Keep that map there, down there. You said that the distance between, that's the red area that you boxed in there, to the residences to the west,
Yes.
so it's about 400 feet. From that red area to Wawa looks a lot more than 400 feet. I'd like to get a clarification on that, because we're talking about the concerns with how people are going to get from the Wawa bus stop. And of course, then after they leave the facility, they have to go back there and cross the street and get the bus going the other direction. But that's got to be at least 800 feet.
Yeah, it's about, we'll use the driveway to the Wawa, the entrance from Route 38. We're looking at, for the westerly side of the driveway, we're looking at 620 feet.
Okay.
So, and if the bus, pulls up a little further, or a little further east, you might be talking, let's say 700 feet.
Okay. And then if somebody's coming east on 38, they're going to get dropped at the corner opposite Wawa. And that's going to add another
Or
couple
heading
of
east, yeah, they would have
Yep.
to cross.
And there's no sidewalks there.
No, there's no crossing lanes.
Crazy.
All right, thank you.
There's a crosswalk.
Hmm?
There's a
Yeah,
crosswalk
there is a crosswalk.
on 38, there's no sidewalk.
Yes, correct.
Yes,
There are some homeless individuals that come to our Code Blue shelter that have their own transportation. So they may not even need to get on the bus. And a lot of them get in the same cars together
Yeah.
and will leave together.
okay. I think the topic was involving the Code Blue people. They're not going to have cars.
Yeah,
Really?
they live in their cars. When it's not Code Blue night, they sleep in their cars.
Okay. It's all yours.
Okay, thank you. I'll have to try to see where we left off here, and what else I'd like to cover. We did talk about deliveries, and of course, they have their own truck on site for deliveries, which we indicated would be parking in front of that proposed shed in the back, which does not take up the 25 spaces that are available for other uses.
I'm sorry, Mark, could you repeat that? Where's the truck parking?
Yeah, it'd be in front of the shed. We have like two spaces right there. The one we designate as a parking space, the other is just, would be sort of a loading area, so to speak, for the vehicle.
So that's not one of your 25?
That's not one of the 25, no.
They're not on our plans.
Again, we'll clarify that with further documentation when we do the full study and present to the board. Let's see. Of course, we do have your professionals' reports, and for the most part, we don't have any issues with complying with those. There are a couple items that I would like to go over just for clarifications. Your engineer's report dated December 29th, 2022. He's got an item under site plan on page 2 of the report. Item number 5 on the site plan. It talks about wheel stops along the areas where the sidewalk is less than 6 feet wide. We have the parking goes against the sidewalk in front of that one-story masonry building. We have that as a 5-foot wide sidewalk. Instead of I'm really not a fan of wheel stops unless there's no curb. Basically because they tend to get beat up, and if there's snow plowing, they get torn up and all. So I tried to avoid those at all costs, but we do have a curved parking lot. So what we can do is we can actually just make that a 6-foot wide sidewalk to accommodate any overhang onto the sidewalk. The other part was where some of the easterly parking spaces on the easterly side of the site. Again, there's a 4-foot difference between the parking space and the property line, so that's also less than 6 feet. And then we also are proposing landscaping within that area. So typically, again, we have curbing there. If someone goes and hits the curbing, then they're also going to be hitting the shrubbery that's there. Again, I don't prefer to have wheel stops. The shrubbery there's a fence right there also, there's shrubbery in front of the fence. To me, that would be a deterrent for anybody to go any further before they start hitting the curb. Again, we can put parking wheel stops there, but I prefer not to, just because they just become a nuisance with regards to clearing snow and just general cleaning of the parking lot area. So that's one of the comments I just want to present. If the board has a preference with the wheel stops there, we can definitely accommodate that.
While you're on that page, how about item number 6 on Mr. Miller's letter? State mandated.
Oh, yeah, state mandated, yes.
electric.
With this proposed development, they're required to provide one ready-made space, or made-to-be-ready EV parking space based on the state's EV ordinance. So we can provide that. We can provide the underground wiring and electrical contacts and all in order to provide the space. And the thought, from my perspective, the thought might be toward the end of the one row of parking space that's set back 10 feet from the property line on the easterly side. We've got an island there that separates the 2 rows, so that would be a good place for in the future. They'll provide the wiring and all right now to that area, and then in the future, should the need arise, or if the requirement is made, they can put a charging station right in that island.
Okay.
Just as a follow-up to that, Mark, if the employee parking is all going to be in the rear, you may want to do the one single spot closest to the
dumpster area.
corner of the building. Because
Oh, right here, yes.
You can serve it from the building.
Okay.
And everybody else you have is going to be quick turnover. They're less likely to use the EV. So it may make sense to let that be one of the employee spaces closest.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. So yeah, we'd be required to provide the one ready-made EV space.
Where and how many ADA handicap spots are we anticipating?
We're required to have 2.
Okay.
two ADA spaces, and they're right in front. What we've done is we've centered them between the entrance to the middle building and the entrance to the bi-level. So, and that way gives it closer to both entrances, so we centered it between those. So I did have an opportunity to discuss with your engineer today. Also, again, we showed on our plans, on our site plans, we showed circulation of the refuse truck coming in and also the fire apparatus. Now, when the refuse truck comes in to the rear, to the dumpster enclosure, it is going to have to make some K-turn maneuvering in order to drive out of the site. So the scheduling of the thing will have to be during hours that you don't have the intense traffic flow during, like Friday between 9 and 1, and the other times during the week when there would be vehicles in that area. So that would be a scheduling maneuver in order to provide that. Now, one of the things in our analysis with the truck circulation in and out of the site is some of the bumpers do go over the curb areas. Now, the wheels themselves, the track of the vehicles themselves stay within the pavement area, but sometimes, like with the K maneuvers, we do have a little bit of overhang, bumper overhang that goes a little bit beyond the edge of pavement or beyond the curb. So that's not unusual, and it doesn't really affect the maneuvering of the vehicle. So I just wanted to point that out. And everything else in that letter, we can comply with and work with your engineer on. And then I want to just jump to the Mr. Taylor's letter of December 29, 2022. Again, most of these items will comply with. One of the items on page 4 of his report, item number 10, talked about the dumpster enclosure. We are proposing an enclosure with just a vinyl fence. Typically, when I design a site, I use a vinyl fence enclosure because should it be damaged, should it be hit, it's easy to repair, plus it does less damage to the probable vehicle that will be hitting it. So I prefer to just use a vinyl, whereas your planner recommended that it be like a block, split block face type of enclosure. So whatever the board may want, but that's, we're proposing right now, we're proposing the vinyl fence. And I believe there were a number of the other item was light poles. Oh, and I wish I put them on the rendering, but they're not. Some of the light poles are, I have them elevated on the concrete pedestal, concrete foundation. I have them elevated 2.5 feet, and that's because they are in close proximity to the travelways and the parking spaces. And the reason they're located where they are is to get most illumination in the areas that they're needed, of course, the parking lot and the walkways, and again, to reduce any kind of spillage on adjacent properties. So they're pretty much set in their location, and with the close proximity to the parking and the circulation and the traffic in and out, I have them elevated so as the poles won't get damaged. That in the letter, your planner had requested that the pedestals be at grade as opposed to being the 2.5 foot high above grade, height above grade. So we prefer to keep the 2.5 foot height. There's some we can stucco the base or something, or paint it to match the building, or something if it makes it a little more appeasing of the site. So whatever the board may wish on that, but it's a function of protecting that light pole that is the reason for the elevated foundation. And then there were a number of landscaping comments that I had discussed with Mr. Taylor, and we'll work with him to address a number of those landscaping. We are providing street trees along the frontage. I show 4 street trees there. Maybe need to relocate them, because one of the things that's not shown on our plan is there is a rather large evergreen tree on the southwest corner of the bi-level, and that takes up a good bit of the room, and we're not proposing to remove any trees on the site, so that might interfere with one of the proposed street trees, so we might either eliminate it or might relocate it to maybe that center grass area between the entrance and the exit of the property. And then there's some other landscaping adjustments that have been mentioned in your planner's letter, and we'll work with him on that. One of the other items which I had not discussed was the signage. And right now, there's an existing sign right at the southeast corner of the property. What we're going to do is we're proposing just to replace the copy on that sign. It'll be, and that detail is shown on the plans that we had submitted. It'll be a backlit sign, but currently that sign does not meet your code, but we are just, we're maintaining that sign and we're just changing the copy on it. So that's part of the proposal on this project.
I didn't see in the package, maybe you did submit it, a signed plan.
Yeah, there's, well, I think it's on one of our detail sheets towards the end.
All right.
It shows the modification to the pylon sign.
If you have that, perhaps you could mark it.
Yeah, it's sheet 9. So this is actually the original plan that we produce our copies from, but it's sheet 9 of the site plan set, drawing CD-2, and in the upper left-hand corner, we show the pylon sign, and the 2 separate signs, one will be the Beacon of Hope, and then there will be a logo for the Christian Center to identify the site. So there's the details on that. The sign is a little bit, about a little under 13 feet high in height. It's got a clearance of just under 9 feet, and then the expanse is just under 15 feet. The sign itself is about 4 feet and 14 and a half feet, by 14 and a half feet.
What does the ordinances require?
That I don't know.
That was me.
Yeah, that I don't know offhand.
32, no?
I believe it's 32, and there's a setback requirement, and there's essentially a 0-foot setback for this.
Yes.
The sign, it is an existing non-conforming sign, and I believe we had a comment in our report that if for some reason the sign is not repairable and it has to be reconstructed entirely, I believe that nonconformity would be lost and the sign would have to be relocated to comply with respect to height, setback, and area.
The non-conforming was given to the art studio, am I right?
Yes.
So how would that apply to this facility that's doing something completely different? Well, in other words, why can't we require that they comply?
If you have an existing non-conforming sign and all you're changing is the content of the sign, it's grandfathered in location and size.
Okay.
It doesn't generate a new sign every time a business changes, as long as that sign, as Scott mentioned, is in a condition that it can be continued to be used.
And just for the board's information, it's a 58 square feet is the sign face. Oops. So that concludes my testimony. If there are any questions, I can entertain.
Can I ask, is there any sign proposed for the buildings themselves besides the ones that the planner has suggested in detailing the individual signs? Is there any other?
Other than the pylon sign itself, no.
Okay.
Okay. Counselor, you want to call your next witness?
May I have just a couple of minutes to confer with my client?
Sure.
Okay, we appreciate that. Just take us a couple of minutes.
I have a comment on your plan. You're saying 705 US Route 130 South, but then, do you have a P.O. box in Hainesport? Because you show Hainesport as your address, and you have the wrong zip code.
Yes.
I don't know if that blows your case out of whack, but I think you should fix it.
That was brought to our attention.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, my name was spelled wrong during my campaign, I never picked it up. I know I was in trouble.
So we did. I voted from the blue
Yeah.
But it is,
As a record plan, you're not gonna fail it for that?
That's why I couldn't find it.
I think they should cut their. The question is,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, in conferring with my client and her team of consultants, I think what we would like to do is conclude at this point for this evening, come back at the next possible opportunity, if that's February 1. We'd love to come back February 1, if you'll have us, if you have room, time on, at that meeting to hear us. We'd like to continue that date. If not, then the next available.
And that's when you'll have your planner and,
Right, we would come back and put our architect on, first at the next meeting, and followed by our planning consultant. And then any question, you will have everybody back. We'll bring all of our witnesses back, so, everybody will be here to, respond to any additional questions from the board and its consultants. And then, of course, make everybody available to the public to ask any questions they want to ask.
what about the traffic issue that we're talking about?
We're
Take care of that, too?
going to be addressing that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, it's okay.
We will be addressing that in the interim and providing whatever additional documentation and possibly additional testimony. Well, certainly additional testimony from us, perhaps even additional testimony from another expert if we determine that's warranted. We'll come back with all of that.
That'll be submitted at least 10 days prior
Correct.
to February 1.
So there's an opportunity to have it reviewed.
Okay. I guess it would be too much to ask for the state relative to traffic on 38, that you're not going to get an answer quick on that. In other words, the question that was raised, are they aware of what's going to go on here?
They are.
They are aware, yeah. They are aware, they just didn't have any detailing of stacking at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Could you mark A3 on that?
this would be actually A4.
A3 or 4, which one was it?
4.
4,
Yeah,
okay.
because A3 was the, that wetland, that geo-web.
Oh, okay, all right. Mr. Kingsbury?
Yes.
We need a motion and a second to continue this to the next available February 1st meeting?
That's correct.
Okay. I need a motion and a second to continue this applicant's case till February 1st.
I think it should be announced that the applicant is not required to send out new notices.
Okay.
This is the notice.
Okay.
Motion is the notice. So everyone here who got a notice to be here tonight will not get a new notice.
Okay, so this case is going to be continued to February 1st, and the applicant is not required to renotice. This is your notice. Okay, so could I get a motion and a second on that?
I make a motion?
I'll second.
Okay, any questions on the motion? May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Costco?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mr. Tricoci?
Yes.
Mr. Novarita? Yes. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
And Mr. Professor?
Yes. Thank you all for your participation. I appreciate your concern.
Just announced it's at 6:30.
What's that?
Remind them it's at 6:30.
Yeah, the next meeting will be at 6:30.
They have, yeah, they do, but I think they understand what they need.
Yeah, we're gonna do that next.
They're leaving. Yeah. Chairman?
That's what they, take something like this, and it's put it here.
All right.
Because this is just a parking lot back here. I never like, you can get two more. You can get 2 and 2, 4 more, but a little turn.
Huh?
Back and forth.
I don't know.
They will never fight a fire that close to a building. Fight it from.
Yeah, but we're not.
And so everything will be put in, and if there's a fire hydrant, it'll be.
Yeah. We have to go over there. We have to go over
Plus,
the,
this one.
the actual annual report.
I just want to give you. I mean, it's.
Stay.
It eliminates a very awkward.
Did you get them?
I could do a case.
Did you get them to come back?
I don't remember.
Are they on their way back? How many of these do you want me to get?
I just want to get words from the house. The problem is, the house was built, no room this, and it forces that everything have to be, no matter what goes here, it's got to be forced this way, no matter what. So,
All right.
the parking issue has to be addressed.
Can I get everybody's attention, please? We have to continue with our meeting, so if you'll take your private meetings outside, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, he's supposed to, he will come back. You might have to swap out the wrong one.
All right. Next order of business is the review of the annual report of activity for 2022.
Our secretary is not returned back. We still have a meeting to finish. Thank you. It's really not that big. A lot of traffic. Where did food go?
Okay, does anybody on the board have any questions about the resolution and mainly the report? Any corrections?
No.
Chairman, this is
For the annual
resolution
report?
2302?
Yes, correct.
What was that?
Yeah, we have the 2 pages.
I saw it.
We have picked up one correction I gave you.
Yeah, it's page 22-05 on the back.
Correct, yeah.
I accidentally put 1422, it should say 1423. It'll
Okay.
be corrected.
Anybody have any other corrections or clarifications or anything they wish to? Night, thank you.
Move to adopt the resolution as drafted.
Did you tell that?
Okay, we have a second.
Sorry, I didn't hear a word.
Mr. McCain is making a motion that we adopt the resolution 2023-02.
Okay, with no recommendations, am I correct, Mr. McKay?
No, as drafted, no recommendations.
Okay.
And did you second that? Okay,
Second.
Mayor Klaus
Mayor
seconded
did.
it.
Okay.
Any questions on the motion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mayor Klaus?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore? Yes. Mr. Jacochi?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Ms. Costco?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
And Mr. Krollpfeiffer?
Yes. The next item I have here is the minutes for the November 2nd meeting. What-
I have not completed them, so
Okay.
we'll get them at next month.
All right.
But we did have the minutes for the October one in our packet, correct?
That was last
Last time, okay.
Those were already.
Okay, and
The first resolution was the one for the annual report. I just did what you did at the roll call. I took that as resolution number 1.
okay. And this other resolution that we have in here, 2023-03 York International,
Correct.
that's the one they asked to hold off on that?
No, York International, we heard last month.
Okay.
The next one is Core 1, which is the one that we
They
did
wanna
not
hold it.
approve
Okay.
last month at their
All
recommendation.
right. Okay, so now we're moving on to correspondence. No, we...
No, we got to vote on 2023-03.
Yeah, that's the one I was just asking you about.
That's the York, for the
York, yeah, for
expansion
the,
of the fenced area.
Yes, we have to vote on that one.
yeah.
All
Okay.
right, I make a motion that we accept Resolution 2023-03.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion, second. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Costco?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mr. Tricoci?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Mr. Krollpfeiffer?
Yes. Correspondence, we have,
Nope, 2020-14.
14.
Next one. The one that's Core 1, that's the one we didn't approve last month, but we need to approve this month.
Is that the one where we got the extra, page 4?
No,
No? Okay.
no. Their engineer, Core 1's engineer didn't have time to review it, and their attorney wanted the extra month to do so, to see if there was any changes that they would like. They're fine, so we're approving it tonight.
I make
You
a
have that
motion to approve Resolution
on the
22,
agenda
2022-14.
just forgive me for a second. I don't have it on my agenda, or I don't have,
In front of you this evening, you had a revised agenda.
oh, okay.
It was in your pile. Yep. Too many things going on.
Too much.
So we just have to approve the resolution?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's easy.
Well, we have a first and we have a second.
Say again?
We have a first and we have a second.
Okay, any questions on the motion besides me? Who didn't have anything? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Kelly.
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore. Yes. Mr. McKay.
Yes.
Mr. Chakotchi.
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio.
Yes.
Ms. Cosko.
Yes.
And Mr.
I
Kroll-Pfeiffer.
think I'm going to abstain because I didn't even read it.
You probably read it last month, because you did have it last.
Did I? All right, well, okay, now I'm at correspondence?
Yes, but do you want me to abstain for that one?
No, correspondence?
Yes.
No, I'm on that. I have read those. Okay, we need a motion and a second that the correspondence be accepted and filed.
Make a motion that we accept and file correspondence.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Kelly.
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore. Yes. Mayor Klaus.
Yes.
Mr. Chakotchi.
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio.
Yes.
Ms. Cosko.
Yes.
Mr. Bradley.
Yes.
Mr. Kroll-Pfeiffer.
Yes. Professional comments. Mrs.
Thank you again for the hours. I'm so excited about that.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
You're an early date.
You know it's late when I have no comments.
Okay. Mr. Kingsbury, Mr. Miller? Board comments, anybody on the board? Comments? Yes, sir.
You guys look really good up there from down here.
Oh, my goodness.
But you just can't hear you, it's horrible.
Really?
Because they don't talk
I
into
mean,
the
you
microphone.
should look into maybe lapel mics or something. I know we've been hearing about the complaints, but, for
Yeah.
years and years and years, but I'm just saying.
is true.
You can't hear me, you really-
is true, you really can't hear.
Well,
Because
Hey,
you don't talk into the microphone.
You need to lean
Well,
forward as you're
What I'm
speaking.
saying is maybe there's a lapel mic that can be, well, I don't have a field, because we have our car club there, they have lapel, they have the mic. We got, I'm just, hey, listen, you do what you want, I'm just.
yeah. No, I think you're,
I'm just,
especially with the crowd we had tonight, we need it.
whatever I am.
Yeah.
Can't hear.
I have a question. Is there anything we can do so that some of us that are sitting here on the sidelines can see what the heck is being presented? And some of the people in the audience can see what is being presented by their professionals?
Yes, it's hard, and they didn't bring the greatest demonstrative
This
exhibits.
is typical, week after month after month, Tom. They stand over there, they tilt it so that you on the board obviously need to be able to.
But nobody else
We
can
get all
see.
this?
Nobody over here can see it.
We get
Nobody
all of
back
this.
behind me.
Yeah, you're right. We did talk about this one time, and they were going to put the
Most of the
projector
stuff
up
that's
here
exhibits
to
are-
put the stuff on the wall here, but,
Why don't we say
Can
that?
they be required to present their evidence in a fashion that can be,
Actually, the exhibits they had here this evening are online, but it's not doing them any good that are sitting behind you.
Do you guys know what an Elmo is? Do
Pardon?
you know what an Elmo is?
Yeah, he laughs and giggles.
Yeah.
Elmo, it's not a doll.
I know.
You tickled me.
It's not a doll. It's a projector. You can lay, without having to go through any fancy expense of blow-ups or whatever, you can take a piece of paper or a color photo, you can lay it on the Elmo, and it will project a nice, large, readable picture, which you could project on any one of these white walls.
that's what Judge Judy uses in her courtroom.
I don't ever watch
No,
it,
seriously.
but
Well-
maybe.
Yeah.
And the point is that it enables people to not spend $1 million on blow-ups that you can't see anyway. And you can project it on the wall. They're not that expensive. I don't know what they cost, but my sense is, less than $1,000. Maybe less than $500, I don't know.
No idea.
But we
You could
use
pick up
them
a
all the
collection.
time, and now you don't need them so much with the new technology in the courts, but, in the not-so-old days, everybody used an Elmo, because it was a good way to get it up on a screen where everybody could see it. Anybody who knew what they were doing in terms of exhibits. So, look into it, it might solve the problem.
We'll do that if you could start talking into the microphone.
You know, I don't know what I have to do.
Wait, thank you.
The microphone is right here.
Yeah, but it doesn't project. And it doesn't help when you're like, you have, like, your hand funny.
One of the problems is you can't turn them up properly or get feedback.
Everybody hears.
If we didn't have so much feedback, you could make it more sensitive.
Yeah, I don't know, it's just.
Jerry, you weren't speaking in the microphone, I can't hear you. I said if you didn't have so much feedback, you could turn them up more, so it would broadcast louder. But we have a lot of feedback. If you turn them up too high, you get feedback. Yeah, no, I agree. Hey, I got an idea. Could we put a camera on their presentation and project that to the projector?
They do have those too.
That way, and do it wirelessly. I know my kids can take their phone and play any movie on the TV.
Scott, what's your experience? You go to a lot of different planning boards.
I do. A very slim majority will download and
Project
do a
it?
projector. When I present, every exhibit that I point to, I hand one out to the board, because every engineer that sits there and presents has never looked at that stupid plan from 9 feet away. You can't see a damn thing.
Particularly when they're standing right in front of it.
And it's frustrating, right. I know it's on the plan, and when it's over there, I can't see a darn thing. I can see it a little bit here.
Yeah, but that still leaves the audience out.
It does. So realistically, the easel, and whenever I present, I push it as far back against that wall as possible. It shouldn't even be 6 feet out, because a third of, quarter of the room. So it should be all the way back against that wall to at least maximize what visibility. You guys are gonna have to turn around.
But we have the plans in front of us.
But the problem there is we don't have the.
We
camera.
do, but when he's pointing to different stuff and saying in this corner, it's helpful to be able to understand that. And especially for the public.
Outside of looking at the plans that were previously given to us, that he's referring to.
Correct.
Okay.
Assuming that
I'm
everybody's
just trying
looked at the
to
plans.
follow the bouncing ball. Maybe we could ask them to bring 2 sets, and they can put one on another side of the room,
Some
or
will do that, and
we
they
can
can
project
point one
it.
toward the crowd, but then he's still only pointing to one.
we
So-
could project, I mean, if they we've asked this before, provide us electronic copies of the plans, because if we're providing these meetings online,
So offering that for a projector makes sense, because then everybody can see it a little bit
but then
better.
who's going to manage transitioning the slides?
You.
Right,
Well, that's.
okay.
Was that the wrong answer?
No, listen, I'm learning my capabilities here is pretty much I can do anything, and everything all at the same time.
Plugged in.
Or they can do it off this.
Especially.
I know my worth.
Including humility.
Turn it on, put a piece of paper on it, project some,
And he
I might
can
actually
right up to the
slide
wall
some
with
other
the pointer and
pictures
say,
in
here,
there.
here.
and what you can do.
We're gonna go.
You and me,
I know.
your feedback
I can tell you're.
today, your literal feedback was
I got some feedback.
fucking my nose.
Thumb wrestle?
These guys don't say it, they just don't. They do.
Yes,
They didn't try it.
Maybe we can try.
How do we get this resolved?
Well,
where we resolve
Might be madness to their
we
message.
have R&D, the Amatis, which I got very much, because that seems to be going nowhere right now, because we're not getting your answers. And then we have Pat McAndrew, the one that's 7, yeah,
Maybe.
maybe, yeah, if that gets answered, and then this.
Bob's Collision.
Oh, that was a body shop with all the concrete.
Bob's Collision.
And then I'm going to have about half dozen homeowners come.
Anybody else is going to come after these guys?
So it's probably going to be February?
Yeah, for them, it will be February, since we've already started them. But, well, we'll start with them because we're continued with them. Unless there's a homeowner I will call their attorney up and ask if the homeowner should go first, as a courtesy, just because it's,
When does this,
Our other boards don't ask.
this resolution that
I do
we
it as a
passed, if
courtesy.
They put the
get
bolts on.
2 or 3 requests for continuance, it's denied,
I
and
do it anyway.
they have to start all over again? When does that? But my question is, I'm just going to use R&M as an example. It's been continued several times, but now we're passing this
We're
resolution.
continuing them, but it's based on them waiting for something, and they have not re-advertised yet.
Yeah.
That covers that, like, we could carry them over on their current advertisement. They're not advertising, we're just leaving it open for the public, for them to hear. Yeah, yeah, because I don't even have to put them on here. I'm just doing that as a courtesy for Creekview,
Okay.
because they want to know what's going on, so I just leave it on there and then put the blurb on there that they're asking for the continuance.
That makes room for a projector.
Nothing a little spackle.
That's where it was.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's where it was.
Wherever you want it.
Not where I want it.
That hole you punched the ceiling?
Yeah, I did. I hit the ceiling someplace over there. Everybody saw me. It's my second.
Okay,
duty
so,
as mayor. Put a hole in the ceiling.
We're done with board comments? How about public comments? There's no public.
Scott, play us a tune on the way out, buddy.
So we're at adjournment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
You're gonna be first, right?
We don't have to stay for a picture, right?
You gonna ride?
Bruce. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
What about?
my wife brought me and I said, look, between Bruce, Tom, and Steve, and, yeah,
I don't know,
my
it's
ride's
not
not
over there.
bad. Jerry, he's, close. My ride tomorrow night's bad. Yeah.
Glad to be back with you guys.
All right, see you, Marty.
See you then, run late.
Yeah, I just.
Right, Scott? I've always enjoyed it.
Yeah, but we're not gonna sit there and.
I'm glad when